Tonight on KGW News, success stories in the battle against homelessness.
This place definitely saved my life.
Progress may seem slow, but local efforts are making a difference.
Plus, the proposed ban on flavored nicotine that some stores say will drive them out of business. Then,
it's been almost 2 years since we were living in our home.
Checking back on the victims of the 2020 wildfires and the volunteers giving them a place to call home again.
And later, they've mixed black pepper, blue cheese, and even fried chicken in their ice cream. But Salt and Straw's new special blend has, gone to the dogs. Your news starts now. And we begin tonight with a frightening afternoon in McMinnville when a man with a gun was spotted on the sidewalk. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. Businesses went into lockdown and neighbors were told to stay inside. All of this ending with a deadly shooting. Our Catherine Cook talked with witnesses tonight in McMinnville.
Police spent about 7 hours out here tonight, but haven't released many details. From witness accounts, we can tell you this. One shot was fired, one man is dead, and we don't know who pulled the trigger. In McMinnville, red tape and police surrounded this business complex at Northwest 2nd and Hill Road. Just after 2 Tuesday afternoon, witnesses tell us McMinnville police responded to reports of a man with a gun. He was standing on a sidewalk. Neighboring businesses went into lockdown. Jeff Johnson lives in a nearby apartment and says his girlfriend was home at the time.
She said that she heard a shot fired and then 10 minutes later sirens, and then a few minutes after that 10 cops banging on the door to be let in upstairs to go into this person's apartment.
A witness tells us she also heard a single gunshot. She shared this photo of what happened next. It shows police and first responders performing CPR on the man. She tells us they spent about 10 minutes trying to revive him, but believes he died. It's unclear who fired the shot that witnesses heard. Oregon State Police is investigating and hasn't released that information yet.
Definitely unusual.
Johnson says he believes the man who died was a neighbor who recently moved in.
Just an older guy. I've just seen him in passing. He's only been here a few weeks.
In McMinnville, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Now to an update on a shooting turned hostage situation in Southeast Portland that was all recorded on surveillance video. The suspect, 49-year-old Robert Connolly, now faces 20 charges, including attempted murder, attempted assault, and kidnapping. You might remember our story last week, which walked you through the August 16th encounter around an auto shop on Southeast Lambert and 82nd. Now, police say Connolly was wanted when they tried to arrest him. He fired shots. Then he ran inside and held a customer hostage. That hostage later convinced Connolly to turn himself in. Nobody was injured.
Now to our homeless crisis and how it's affecting schools. The first day of school in Portland is next Tuesday, August 30th. Last week, the mayor expanded an emergency declaration to prohibit camping on key walking routes to K through 12 schools. That's within 150 feet of school buildings and along streets kids use to walk to and from school. The city's notifying these campers 3 to 10 days ahead of the planned cleanup and offering them a shelter bed along with free storage for their belongings. Officials are prioritizing camps near elementary and middle schools.
I was very much for it. I'm very happy about that. It needs to happen. It's dangerous. We can't have these people around our children. Too unpredictable.
Just homeless people don't need to be around schools when the schools are in session. Period.
Many people say the idea looks good on paper, but don't see how this will be enforced or don't believe it will help the overall problem.
Meanwhile, Vancouver has now had its first safe stay village up and running for about 6 months now. This used to be a spot that was full of tents and garbage, and now it is cleaned up, organized, and more than that, those who call it home say they feel safe. Pat Doris took a look tonight on the story.
I never had a hard time up here, and then this year after COVID hit, that's just when everything changed for me, you know.
Before moving into Vancouver's safe stay community in April, Courtney Ligman lived in a tent on a trail near Interstate 205.
It's safe. It's safe compared to like my tent. I don't have to worry about people coming in and stealing my stuff. You know, when you're out living in a tent, you can't lock your door. And then if you have to leave to go anywhere, people are constantly going through your stuff trying to take from you. So like this is just like, you know, it's a safe place.
The community marks 6 months of existence at the end of June. It's off Northeast 51st Circle near the YMCA. Volunteers like Sean Kingsbury keep the place looking nice. The city of Vancouver issued a report showing what worked over the last 6 months. Of 46 people served, 11 got jobs, 32 got access to health care, including physical, mental, and behavioral health. 16 got ID cards, 1 got a high school diploma, 40 had housing assessments done, moving them a step closer to permanent housing. And of those, 14 moved into permanent housing, and 10 others are in the process of getting permanent housing. Jamie Spinelli is the homeless response coordinator for Vancouver. I asked if 14 was a low number for permanent housing.
I feel like it's a great number. I know, you know, numbers from shelter to housing tend to be kind of low. People tend to kind of stagnate when they move into shelter for a whole variety of reasons. They get comfortable there, you know, they've got some stability, so they want to stay. Because they're not out on the streets, they're not like the emergency focus for services, you know. Focuses tend to be placed on folks who are outside. So I feel like the numbers out of here are fantastic. 30%, it's a good rate.
One thing that did not work, not everyone who arrived stayed. 11 people left during that first 6 months. But don't try telling Courtney Ligman this place does not work. It changed her life.
I couldn't even look people in the face. I was like, I'd lost like a big part of myself. And I didn't even realize it until I came here. And I was like, oh man. And then starting to feel like yourself again, I'm gonna cry. But you know, it's, yeah, getting your dignity back. It makes a difference. Sorry, I get emotional because it saved my life.
Vancouver's program looks like something that holds great promise, which is why leaders from cities around the country are visiting now to see what they're doing. We also checked in on the status of Portland's Safe Rest villages. You can watch our full report now in the story section of the KGW YouTube channel.
It's so good to hear what's working, and a Portland shelter is also celebrating success helping people who are homeless. The Laurelwood Shelter in Southeast Portland served a special meal for its 3rd anniversary. One person who lives in the shelter said the center has helped him with everything from rides to medical appointments to job assistance.
I've been to a couple shelters, and I personally like TPI. Like, I think that the mindset and the course of actions that they're taking to help people is really better than what some other shelters and other organizations are trying to do.
The shelter that opened in 2019 features 120 beds and mainly houses women, couples, and those who identify as non-binary.
Health officials in Multnomah County are reviewing a plan to ban the sale of flavored nicotine products. If this sounds familiar, it is because Washington County has something similar in the works, though it's stalled in Multnomah because of the pandemic. Now, County Health Officer Jennifer Vine says even though the legal age to purchase nicotine is 21, younger people are still getting a hold of vapes and cigarettes, and they are attracted by those flavors. Local businesses, meanwhile, worry curbing sales will cut into their bottom line.
For my business, and not just for my business, for a lot of smoke shop in the area, they will have to close because that's the main thing for our business.
17% of the time we find tobacco retailers in Multnomah County selling to someone who is underage. And the fact is, these fruity flavored products that mask the irritation of nicotine and tobacco, these are almost universally available everywhere that sells tobacco in Multnomah County.
So the county's now looking for public input. We've got a link in our article up at kgw.com. The health department plans to come back with a plan in September. That's when the board is expected to make a final decision.
Now to an update on Oregon's largest wildfire in the state. The Cedar Creek fire has now burned more than 7,100 acres. It's burning 15 miles east of Oak Ridge in very steep and difficult to access terrain. More crews are being mobilized to fight the fire, which is 0% contained. So far, there are no evacuation orders in place, but northern and western areas of the Waldo Lake Wilderness are closed to the public. And it's been 2 years since the historic and devastating 2020 fires, and some families are just now getting back on their feet. That recovery includes a Clackamas County family that is finally able to walk through their new front door. As Christelle Kumwe reports, it's thanks to a dedicated group of volunteers.
The 2020 wildfires ravaged communities across Oregon.
Smoke was just black. It was so hard to breathe.
Shyla James lives in Molalla with her daughter and remembers the evacuations.
We only could take our goats and our horses over to the Clackamas County Fair, and we were the last to return after about 2 weeks.
By then, their home was damaged beyond repair.
So it was pretty traumatic. It was pretty upsetting and shocking, not knowing what to do.
That's when Shyla heard from the Clackamas County Long-Term Recovery Group.
Our mission as volunteers is to support, rebuild, and recover the community here of Clackamas County.
Volunteer Pat Olson says the group formed 2 years ago. It's funded largely by private businesses and nonprofits and serves as a lifeline in the wake of the 2020 wildfires.
So our help includes actual home building, and I call it soup to nuts, all the way from permitting, working through land use.
They rebuilt Shyla's home from the ground up in about 8 months on the same property her old home used to be.
So it's been almost 2 years since we were living in our home.
Thanks to the Clackamas County Long-Term Recovery Group, Shyla and her daughter have a place to call home again in their beloved community.
And I have relatives all around. I grew up here, over 50 first cousins. My family came in the 1800s, escaped from communism in Poland. So it's really neat history, and we're thankful to be able to stay here.
Christelle Kumwe, KGW News.